In the grimdark future of the 42nd millennium, war rages across the entire galaxy. Rallying his forces to press forward his indomitous crusade, Reboot Gilliman searches for heroes wherever he can find them.
Is that lore? No. No, 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 no. No. No, no, no,
Gilliman
no.
turns a valiant eye towards the chosen miniature painter,
Well,
for he alone can raise the Angels Revenant to their former glory. Oh, and you need to get this kill team back in the mail to us in 3 days so we can record the battle report.
what? Hey there, friends. My Canadian buddies over at Play on Tabletop recently reached out to me for a little painting support. And if you haven't heard of Play on Tabletop, make sure you go check out their YouTube channel. Their battle reports are out of this world. They've started a new series called Kill Team Challenger. And Steve over there wants me to paint up a slick squad of Space Marines in a chapter that he doesn't currently own, which is easier said than done coming from a dude whose name is literally Space Marine Steve. I decided to go with Angels Revenant because their name is badass. They got a pretty cool color scheme and they play a role in the Indomitus Crusade. So it's obviously
timely lore content.
By the time the models got to me from the Great White North, I found out I only had about 3 days to paint them before I needed to get them back in the mail and get to Steve so he'd have time to record the battle report. Since we've got no time to lollygag, we're gonna get right to it. These models need to pop on the table for the battle report video. And for that, we've got a system in place. I'm gonna start by painting all the armor in a color that's actually brighter than the mid-tone of the armor. You'll see why a little bit later. Oh, and I'm not worried about this being a fully opaque, clean coat. I just want this as our impression of our color in one coat. We don't have time for more than that.
That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I'll do my best to try to avoid making mistakes with this color and not hitting other panels that we don't want to hit. Things like our white shoulder pads, the Aquillas, and the weapon. Now, if I do make a mistake here, it's not the end of the world. It's just going to take us a little bit more time to fix those later, and I'll show you how we do that when we get to that point. We're just going to keep moving along with our base coats. For all the gold bits, I'm going to use Rich Gold by Pro Acryl. I like this color because it's fairly strong and I can get all of this gold done with only one coat. Oh, and before I forget, I will post links to the products I'm using in the video description so you can get anything that you like. As a matter of fact, most of them will have affiliate links, which will mean they will cost no more money to you and will get me a slight kickback. And in the case of the Pro Acryl paints, I actually have a coupon code down there for 10% off. And now I'm going to move to my final base coat. You see, I haven't painted everything just yet, but these are the final base coats I'm going to do for now, and that would be Pro Acryl's Silver. I use a pure white ink to clean up any mistakes that I made on our white shoulder pads and knee pads. It's important that they stay nice and bright white for future steps, so I'm going to clean them up now. And I prefer white ink for this because it doesn't give us that chalky texture that white paint often leaves behind. I thought I was done with my base coats, but I took a left turn here and decided the captain needed a little bit more attention to detail to make him stand out at the table. I was going to paint his helmet a red, but I thought that's done so often and decided to go with a burnt orange that I'll later make brighter. Now, I like this choice because it's a complementary color to the blue and will really make it stand out. Okay, on to the meat and potatoes of this paint scheme. In order to achieve a high quality, good looking squad in just a short period of time, I'm going to use some very simple oil painting techniques that require no additional experience or understanding in how to use these in order to achieve it. Mineral spirits are used to thin our paints and to clean up our brush instead of water. I'm gonna mix up a color that will be what I consider the darkest shadow color for this armor. You could certainly use any color right out of the tube. For some reason, I was feeling a little bit fancy trying to match that exact armor color from the Angel's Revenant. Now, in the corner of my palette, you'll see a brown glob. That is known as liquid impasto, and you do not need it. What it does is it actually speeds up the drying time for oils. Now we're working with thin oils, so they're gonna dry relatively quickly anyway, but because I was under a tight timeline, I wanted to make sure that these oils would be dried by the next morning when I started the next steps. Now I said this is gonna be easy and I want you to hold me to it. All we're doing is going to base coat all of the armor panels again, just like we did with the acrylics. Now the good thing about oils is if you make a mistake, it's even easier to fix than with acrylics. You just take a clean brush, dip it in a little bit of mineral spirits, and wipe off that mistake. Simple as that. With this darker desaturated blue, I'm feeling we are getting closer to the true armor color of these Angel's Revenant. And in hindsight, that first acrylic coat was a little bit too much of a sky blue than it probably should have been. But at the end, I think it still turns out okay. Our second step in this oil process is even easier than the first. We take our clean makeup sponge or Q-tip and remove most of the paint that we just put down. Now, as that Q-tip or sponge gets saturated with the oil paint, make sure you swap it to the opposite side and you're always working with a fairly clean tip. Remember, this dark blue is our shadow color, so areas that would be in shadow, just don't remove the oil paint. And that's one of the beauties of this. All those underneath hard to reach areas would be in shadow, so just don't remove it and it'll look great. Now you can certainly just stop at this point. Like if I had an army that had 60 or 70 Marines in it, this is where I'd stop. I'd take all the Marines to this step. But I've got one more easy step that we're gonna do to really push this over the top and make this armor blend look amazing. Even though we removed most or all of that oil paint on our higher surfaces, there's still a very thin layer of linseed oil there. That eventually will dry over time, but for now, it creates a surface for us to create really easy blends. So I'm just gonna take a brighter highlight color, in this situation, a light gray, and I'm gonna just place it on the spots on the armor that would have the brighter highlights. I'm not trying to blend, I'm not trying to do any kind of edge highlighting here. I'm just trying to basically just sketch out where I think the brighter points would be. And now we get to what I consider to be the most satisfying step in all of miniature painting. We take a clean, dry brush, and it needs to be dry, no mineral spirits or any moisture on that brush. And we're just going to buff the edges of where those whiter highlights meet the armor, and blends magically appear. As I'm buffing the edges of where the two colors meet, I make sure I don't go into that highlight color too much. If I do that, I'll actually be mixing it into the color underneath and it will kind of dull it down. Now for areas that you don't want to be as bright, that's fine and that's a great technique to use. And if you make a mistake and you pull away too much of that highlight color, you just go back to the last step, put a little bit more down, and repeat the buffing process. This 3-step oil process is incredibly simple and it's an immense time saver. There's no way that I could have achieved this level of blends in one evening like I did with these 6 Kill Team members with acrylic paints. And I know some of you are probably saying, John, I'm not gonna do this oil painting stuff. I've got a bazillion acrylic paints and now they're gonna all be useless. And that's just not true. I use acrylic paints on every single model that I paint with oils. As you saw, we did start the model with acrylics. And after the oils are dried, we're gonna come back in and do our details with acrylics again. We're not having to choose between oils or acrylics. In miniature painting, they work so well together. We're going to repeat steps 1 and 2, where we apply oils to a surface and then remove it with a makeup sponge over a majority of the rest of the model. We don't have to worry about doing that highlighting step anymore. That's just for our major portion of the model, which is the armor. We're going to start with a brown over all the golds and the whites on the shoulder pads and knee pads. I continue with these steps over a number of the other unfinished areas, such as the helmet of the captain and the brown pouches as well. Let's take a minute to talk about the magic in a bottle that is Abteilung 502's engine grease. This is a pre-thinned oil and it works amazing as a wash. And when you just place it over a portion of the model, it just sinks right into the cracks and crevices and it leaves a slight yellow tint to the raised areas. I knew I wanted to use this stuff over the silvers as well as the rifles themselves. But I was also not super happy with how the browns looked going over the gold areas. So I decided to hit all the golds with this stuff as well. And it made a major difference. And here you can see just how easy it is to clean up our mistakes. Just a little quick swipe with a clean brush and mineral spirits, and that mistake is gone. And oh my gosh, panel lining with oils, it just puts acrylics to shame. They can't hold a candle to what we can accomplish here. The only thing that limits us is the size of our brush. And in my earlier metallics video, I showed how I make my own teeny tiny brush that you can do super simple, so check that out as well. Since I had a bit of engine grease still left on my palette, I decided to slap that on the bases, as well as the dark brick red that I used for the captain's helmet, and kind of made this dirty, rusty color on the bases. It looked great, didn't take me much time at all. The next morning my oils had dried, and so I took a look at my models. And the Angels Revenant have this off-white color to their shoulder pads and knee pads, and I didn't feel like I was quite there. So I took a Seraphim Sepia and I thinned it down a bit and created a filter over those whole white sections. And it really did bring the warmth into them that I was looking for. Because I need to knock these out quickly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on fiddling with extra details on the model. but I do want to boost a little bit of this captain's helmet. I think that your leader model should have a little bit of something extra to them, even when you're speed painting a big group. But because we're getting these done so fast, maybe you want to have a few more details or fancy work done on your models. Well, you're in luck. I actually created another video that's over on Play on Tabletop's channel with 5 easy tips to boost the quality of your tabletop models. So the link is in the description. Check that video out after this one. Like I said, the oils leave a slight tint over anything that you put them on, even if you wipe it all the way off. For our metallics, that means that it's dulled the shine a bit, which isn't a bad thing because we can really quickly go back in and hit with our pure gold and pure silver, just the upward facing areas, to pop the shine and bring more realism to those metallic bits. Just a few more little details that I'm going to knock out on these Marines. The first are their lenses, and they're going to be red. But first, to give them a glowing appearance, I'm going to dot the lens itself while avoiding the recess around it in pure white. Again, I use ink for this because it's thin and it's still very opaque. Then I go in with a slightly diluted red ink and hit the whole eye socket, including the recesses and the edges around the helmet where it meets the eye. This will give us a slight glowing feel, and that white underneath just on the lens will make it look like that's where the light is originating from. And if you're feeling particularly spicy, you can attempt a small white dot as a lens reflection in the corner of the eyes. Just try not to fuck it up like I just did. I use the same process of white ink, then red ink, then back to white ink highlights on the tips of the coils for this plasma gun. Because inks are so vibrant, it makes being able to pull off effects like this really fast. And with a quick Abaddon black on the base rim, we have these Angels Revenant ready to head back to our maple syrup loving friends at Play on Tabletop.
The Angels Revenant glow resplendent in their magnificently painted panoply of war. Will they rise to the challenge worthy of such ministrations? Or will they falter and be offered as trophies of war to Space Marine Steve's opponent in an upcoming episode of Kill Team Challenger? Be sure to check it out over at Play on Tabletop.
I hope you enjoyed this one and it equipped you with a few more choice weapons to help you in your quest to slay the Gray. If you find value in these videos and want to help me to continue to make them, you can choose to support me through Patreon. I have a link below in the video description. You get access to a bunch of fun rewards, like a Discord server where we can chat at any moment that I'm actually awake, as well as access to my exclusive vlog, where I talk about my video painting projects and try to hold some kind of conversation with myself. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for all the support. We'll see you next time. Okay, so JT is the guy that does all the voiceovers over at Play on Tabletop for their battle reports. And for this video, I requested that he give me some sound bites for me to use to help it feel like the epic nature of their videos. But as long as I was going to write some lines for him to talk, I thought I'd throw in a little extras for him. So I just received the audio from him back, and we're going to listen to the lines that I wrote for him, and let's see how he interprets them.
Check out the finesse used to apply that paint. It's as if he has tiny ballerinas on the tips of his fingers.
All right, we're just easing him in here, like things that he probably think are okay. We'll see if he catches on.
These Angels Revenant are really shaping up nicely. I can smell their rich musk from here? That's a rookie mistake there. He needs to head back to the locker room, reassess his life goals, and come out in the second half ready to dunk flaming hot Cheetos into a Shamrock Shake.
Okay. All All right, so we're going to cut out the parts where JT is asking me questions about what this stuff means.
I've walked the Great Wall of China. I've gazed upon the pyramids at Giza. I've even kayaked down the Amazon. I gotta admit, commenting on miniature painting has gotta be the most fulfilling experience of my life. What the hell is this?